We're diving straight into the headlines today to look at a presidency where history is literally being written in real time. And our focus is on what's being called the new architecture of power.
So this really boils down to one central question, doesn't it? Is the established system of checks and balances we all know actually holding firm? Or is an entirely new system being built right around it, designed to make the old one obsolete?
To even start to answer that, we have to look at what's happening right now. So let's do a rapid-fire look at today's news. This is the pulse of just another day in a presidency that, well, keeps rewriting the rulebook. Okay, first up, a major showdown between the courts and the executive branch. In Minneapolis, you've got a chief federal judge who's on the verge of holding the head of ICE in contempt. Why? For just openly defying the court's direct orders? It's a real standoff.
Then, you switch to the world stage, and it's an even bigger move. Over at Davos, President Trump just announced something called the Board of Peace. And make no mistake, this is being positioned as a direct, one-to-one alternative to the United Nations.
And this isn't just happening in government buildings. Look at the digital world. TikTok, which was just sold to investors with very close ties to the president, is now facing accusations that it's systematically scrubbing politically sensitive content from its platform.
So you hear those three things: a judge, a New World Forum, a social media app, and you might think they're totally unrelated. But the analysis we are looking at argues they are not isolated events. They're all part of a much larger and historically unusual pattern.
And that pattern has a name: parallel structures of power. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's about building new systems, new institutions, new rules that are specifically designed to operate outside of the old ones, away from the prying eyes of Congress or the courts. This quote really just nails the dynamic. While the traditional system, the judges, the governors, is pulling on the reins, trying to maintain control, the administration is busy building a totally separate system, one that doesn't even have reins to be pulled.
So what does this new architecture of power actually look like? How is it being designed and put into practice? Let's get into the blueprints.
To really get it, let's just put them side by side. The traditional institutions we're all familiar with versus these new, parallel structures that are cropping up.
Okay, this table says it all. The difference is pretty stark. You look at the UN, it's a democratic body. The Board of Peace, it has a permanent chairman, President Trump, who has personal veto power over who gets to join and, get this, can appoint his own successor. I mean, this is a fundamental redesign of how global power works.
And then, of course, there's the money. To get a seat at this table, you've got to contribute $1 billion. $1 billion that goes into a fund. And here's the crucial part. That fund is controlled by the president, and only the president. It's completely independent of Congress. It sidesteps their entire power of the purse.
Now, this kind of unconstrained approach is sending massive shockwaves through the global economy. Investors have even coined a new term for it: the debasement trade. And it's a direct result of these aggressive, unpredictable moves, like threatening to annex Greenland or hitting Canada with 100% tariffs that just create instability and make investors flee from traditional currencies.
And you can see that impact right here in the numbers. The price of gold, the ultimate safe haven asset, has surged past $5,000 an ounce. But look at that Boeing number, a backlog of $682 billion. Now, that's not just a lot of plane orders. The analysis we've seen suggests that countries are using these huge purchases as a back-channel way to improve their standing with the White House. It's a new currency of influence, one that bypasses diplomacy entirely.
So, you've got new institutions, new economic levers, but there's a third pillar to this whole architecture: controlling the narrative. Because in this day and age, power isn't just about what you can do, it's about what story people believe.
So how do you do it? Well, the reporting points to a pretty clear three-step playbook. First, you force a huge platform like TikTok to sell itself to friendly, loyalist investors. Second, you get under the hood and make changes at the code level to manage the flow of information. And third, you use that control as a political shield to protect and promote your own narrative.
And this isn't just a theory. Users on the ground are reporting very specific examples. Keywords like Epstein suddenly don't bring up results. Videos about ICE raids seem to vanish from people's feeds. And content that's critical of the administration gets quietly, systematically censored.
All right, so let's pull the lens back. When you put all these pieces together, we have to ask about the long-term view. What is history's eventual verdict going to be on this moment?
Because what we are all witnessing, really, is a clash between two massive tectonic forces. On one side, you have institutional constraint, the courts, the laws, the system of guardrails. And on the other, you have executive defiance, just pushing relentlessly against those very boundaries.
And you can hear the strain in the voices of those institutions. That federal judge in Minnesota, Patrick Schultz, put it so bluntly in his standoff with ICE. He just said, "The court's patience is at an end." That's a line in the sand.
But here's the incredible irony in all this. While the courts are busy drawing those lines in the sand at home, a whole new global order is being built, designed from the ground up to exist completely beyond their reach. It's like winning a fight in your living room while someone else is redrawing the map of your entire neighborhood.
Which brings us all the way back to our first question, but now the stakes feel so much higher. In this epic contest between the old system and the new one being built around it, who is actually reshaping whom?
Because in the end, history isn't just about what happens, it's about what is remembered. And that, ultimately, comes down to who controls the record.